Alright guys, I am out here at Harley Davidson Demo Days. Look at all these bikes. Today we're going to ride this one right here. This is the right by the music. I might get demonetized from the music. Alright, so this is the CVO Street Glide. Take a look at that. Look at how beautiful it is with all the chrome. So keep in mind the Street Glide. So the difference between the Road Glide and the Street Glide, it took me a while to figure that out. The Street Glide actually has the fairing that turns with the handlebars. The Road Glide is actually a fixed fairing that doesn't move. And then the CVO is the upgrade. A lot of your CVOs actually have, they're upgraded to the 117. This is a 2022 CVO Street Glide. Wow, look at that. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. There's a lot of fancy chrome, black and chrome. Looks pretty awesome. Alright, so then to turn it on, let's see. You turn it on here, I believe. Look at that. Fancy CVO. You gotta make sure you're neutral. Pulling the clutch. Look at these handlebars. Nice. These little hand grips. Pulling the clutch. Start it right here. Ooh, that's pretty smooth. Pretty quiet. Has a little bit of a rumble to it. Look at it, how much it actually shakes the handlebar a little bit. Pretty nice. Shakes the air cleaner a little bit. You can tell it's a Harley V-twin. And the first thing I always do before I take off, pull in the clutch, put it in first gear, and I always like to see how far out you have to let the clutch before it engages. So maybe about an inch, not too bad. A lot of them seem to be right about that inch mark. So yeah, it's kind of interesting how the whole thing turns with the steering wheel. This is a Street Glide. And it looks like we may have some people in the way over here. Let's see if we can get around these people. Alright. Alright, so we're going to do it. Kind of interesting. Feels like a really good stance. Back brakes are pretty good on this, actually. So some of them, the back brakes are really bad, but on this one, I think they're really good. Want that one little stop? Let's try it on this stop. It's got some big floorboards, really big floorboards in this one. It's kind of interesting. Not bad, start and stop. And I noticed on the, wow, it's got a really long friction zone. I thought it was all the way out, and I had to let it out even more. It was pretty wild. Really long friction zone. That's one thing I love about Harley Davidsons is they have a really big friction zone in the clutch to where it starts grabbing. You actually have quite a bit more space to where you can let the clutch out so you're not stalling it. Alright, so your standard Harley Davidson blinkers. Let's see. We'll stop here. Easy stopping and starting. Super easy. Alright. Interesting sound. Nice. I really like the sound on this one. Probably that's the best sound that I've heard. It's pretty nice. And it seems like it's really easy. Going down the road, really easy to ride. One of the easiest to get used to, I'd say. And the other thing that's kind of surprising on this one is I'm feeling pretty much no vibration up through the handlebars. It's silky smooth going down the road. It's got a lot of power too. It's got a lot of pickup. It's got a kind of that deep throat roar to it. It's pretty nice. So I'm actually getting a little bit of buffeting. How fast am I going? I'm going 60. A little bit of buffeting. Of course, through here I think we're getting crosswinds. It seemed like on a lot of the bikes I rode today, getting a lot of buffeting right through this kind of a crosswind area. But I know, you know, for different riders you can actually adjust the windscreen, so I think if you brought the windscreen up just a little bit more, it might eliminate that buffeting. I kind of like the floorboards. You can kind of put your feet a little bit further forward on the floorboards than you can on a lot of bikes. Pretty nice. You got your standard bagger mirrors on there, which are really nice. They're like smaller mirrors, but they're really bowed out to where you can see quite a bit behind you, which is pretty nice. Looks like you got your radio. I don't really use the radio. I use earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds with my phone, usually when I'm riding. You got your gas gauge, your speedometer, your tachometer, which is nice. You got your voltmeter. That's interesting. Yeah, riding with one hand, waving to a biker. Easy peasy. Very stable on the road. The seat is very comfortable, super comfortable. I have yet to be on a Harley Davidson where the seat hurts me. So, and I've gone through, I think this is like my 10th bike on the demo day so far. So, no bad seats on any Harleys that I've seen so far. Probably the worst was some of the Hondas that I've been on. Brutal seats. That kill me. That's one thing, you want to make sure your seat is comfortable. So let's see, what else can I tell you about this one? It's interesting, they have a lot of buttons down here at the bottom of the dash down here that are like for some options maybe that aren't included. Has a really kind of a chopper feel a little bit to it. Not as much as the ones with the slightly raised. I think if you raised up the handlebars a little bit, you get more of a kind of a chopper feel. But I think you easily could with this one. It kind of has that stance. Let's see, slow speed stability. Fair, I'd say fair. Not the best. Not the worst, not the best. You got a little bit of extra weight from the fairing, but it's not as bad as some of your big baggers. That long friction zone, I'd say this one probably has the biggest friction zone out of all the bikes, where you let the clutch halfway out and you think you're all the way out and then you're not. You have to keep letting it out more and more, which is pretty wild. It's got some pretty good acceleration, not crazy fast, but definitely fast enough. Still a little bit of choppiness of the wind coming up to hit my helmet. This one seems like this one gives me more buffeting than most, but it's not extreme. I've been on some that were just really extreme. I think the worst one that I've ever been on was the Honda Goldwing, which had some crazy buffeting. I couldn't even concentrate. My head was bobbing around. This one, yeah, you could definitely feel a little bit of buffeting. But I think mainly that comes down to the windshield, the visor height on top of the fairing. So you could actually increase the height of the fairing a little bit to cut down on that. So if you're like a short rider, you might not have as much buffeting. But me being a tall rider, my head kind of sticks up above the fairing more than usual, I'd say. As far as being nimble on the road, it's actually fairly nimble. Where Whereas if something was in the road, you could actually go around it pretty easy. Not too bad. I would say, you know, the bikes with the skinnier tires in the front are a little bit more nimble. But this one's not bad at all. So on all your Harley Davidsons so far, I have yet to have one of them give a lot of heat on my legs. None of them actually make you hot. I've been on some Triumphs. A lot of the Triumphs just burn your legs to where you just can't take it anymore. I rode a Triumph when it was like 85 degrees. I think it was like the Triumph Tiger or something like that. It was one of the worst ones. And it felt like I was riding around in 100-degree weather just because of the heat of the engine was like burning my legs. I never really experienced anything like that until I got on some of those. But nothing, you never really see that on the Harley with the V-twin. So, don't have to worry about that, which is nice. I suppose if you're doing a lot of winter riding, you might want to have something like that to kind of warm you up if you're always riding in the winter. But usually if it's winter, you get snow and then you can't ride anyway, so. Alright, so I'm actually going to turn around in this little parking lot right here. I've been kind of seeing how easy these are to turn around in a short little spot here. And let's see on this one. This one seems not too bad, actually. Not too bad as far as turning around. Pretty stable. One of the biggest things I'm always afraid of is the handlebars hitting my knees. You can see on this one doesn't really hit my knees, which is nice. All right, so the long friction zone. Pretty nice, pretty nice, pretty fast. Oh, but the buffeting. 60, yeah, buffeting. That's not good. It's like my head's kind of bobbing around, kind of blurring my vision a little. Alright, so that's the big thing on this one. I think if you get in the right spot, like right here. I think I'm just in the wrong spot. Oh, if I lift my head up, it's pretty bad. They definitely have to work on, you know, lowering or raising this part right here, or lowering the angle. It seems like maybe too much of an angle. Well, it kind of angles up a little bit. That's interesting. That's why you should always take a bike out and try it, because especially with buffeting and, you know, the seat comfort and everything, a lot of times you'll get on a bike and, you know, 20 minutes later you'll be back at the dealer returning it because it's unbearable. So, and a lot of it depends on your body size too. So if you're really tall like me, sometimes it'll put your head up above where normally most people would sit and stay out of the wind. So, like for example, it seems like if I go further back, if I'm like leaned way back, it seems like there's no buffeting. But yeah, and sometimes they can just make modifications to the bike to kind of fix a lot of the problems. One of my biggest things is the floorboards always seem too high for me. I always seemed a little scrunched. On this one, it seems like it's a little bit more spread out. So this one's not too bad with the floorboards. Although I do prefer pegs, mainly because I can kind of like stretch my ankles. I just kind of like to move my feet around a little bit. It just seems like a little bit more comfortable. So yeah, pretty stable on the road. Not too bad. Not quite as stable as something like the Road King or the Ultra Limited. Those are really stable. As far as the seat here, about what, 20 minutes later, Seat's still comfortable. No problem with the seat. The funny thing about the seat though is it gives me almost a reverse stance where I'm almost leaning back to be comfortable instead of, you know, straight up or forward, which is kind of an interesting effect. So the back brakes, not too bad now that I'm getting used to them. Not bad at all. That long friction zone. That's pretty funny. That's the first time I've ever been on a Harley that had such a long friction zone where you have to let the clutch weigh like twice as far. It's like the friction zone is like twice as big on this one. By the time it starts grabbing on the clutch till the time it's fully engaged is like twice the distance, which is weird. Because I first noticed it when I like put the clutch out, and then I was giving it gas, and I thought it was all the way out, and I kind of let go of it and engaged even more, like I was kind of slipping the clutch because the clutch wasn't all the way out. Just kind of weird. Sometimes you just have to get used to those different clutches. I know the Indians are probably the worst and the hardest to get used to, because you like let them way out like 2 inches, and then they have a really short friction zone, like 1/4 of an inch, but between by the time it grabs till the time it's fully out. So on those, it's like I'm always fishing for the friction zone. A lot of times what I'll do on the Indians, I'll find myself at a stop sign letting the clutch out more and more and more until I actually find the friction zone, you know, so I don't stall it when I'm taking off. It's you know, once you get used to it, it's easy, but it seems like, you know, if you're going from bike to bike, you know, from brand to brand, going from Harley to Honda and then over to Indian, the Indians are just so different when their clutches and their friction zones. It's kind of an interesting experience on the Indians. When I first got on the Indians, I was really struggling, and the guy was like, "Are you sure you can ride a bike?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of fishing for that friction zone because it's like in the middle of nowhere and it's really super short." It's kind of a weird effect on those, but you'll never see that on the Harleys. That's one of the things I like about the Harleys is they all have a long friction zone. Not as long as this one, but it's really forgiving because you can let the clutch out a little bit and you can kind of feel it, and you'll never really stall the bike like you will on some of your other ones. So it's a really nice clutch. And I know on some of the clutches like BMWs, I know you can actually adjust the clutch. I don't know if you can adjust the friction zone, but I think you can adjust where the position of it is. So yeah, this is a fun bike, really fun. I don't know if yellow is my color. It's a bright bike, super bright. People will definitely see you with the yellow bike. And it feels pretty light. It actually feels like a light bike, especially coming off those full dressers. Not quite as light as the Sportster S. That was probably the lightest and the fastest and the funnest. If you haven't tried a Sportster S, you definitely need to try one. It's kind of a shame that they actually named it the Sportster, because you know the Sportsters are usually kind of you think of a Sportster, you think of kind of a low-end bike, and the Sportster S is definitely not like your traditional Sportster. So I find it kind of interesting that this particular bike has floorboards. Seems like they're all going to floorboards anymore instead of the pegs. Seems like on a bike like this you'd want pegs instead of the floorboards. But let's see, I'm kind of this guy's blind spot here. So would I buy this bike? Maybe. Maybe I might buy this bike. One of the things I'd want to see on this bike before I bought it is I'd want to see, figure out how to eliminate the buffeting. You know, work on that, work on the dash, on the visor, and the wind dynamics. That seems like what it was kind of bothering me the most, is the buffeting on this bike. But it's a fun bike, nice and light, has a good sound, one of the best sounds I'd say of all this, just the stock Harley Davidsons without any upgrades. Of course, you know, this is the CVO, so they could have the exhaust upgrade. Maybe that's why it sounds a little bit different. So sometimes on your CVOs they'll actually upgrade the exhaust, so that could be why it sounds a little bit meatier compared to some of the other bikes that aren't quite as loud. Let's see, I think okay, I got it right here. Nice. All right, so let's see how easy it is to get into neutral. That's always the question. Oh, one click, right, smooth as butter, right into neutral. Nice. All right, kill it right here. All right, some of these bikes, sometimes it takes me like 5 times to try to get it into neutral, and sometimes it's really buttery smooth, it just pops right into neutral. So there you have it, a bright yellow bike. That is the CVO Street Glide. Pretty awesome bike right there. All right, there you have it. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.